Archaics, including Neanderthals and the to them associated haplotype B006, have been the working class of modern humans since over 1 million years ago. The earliest Archaics, including Neanderthals, originated in South America, as can clearly be seen in the haplotype tree. Oceanic gyres are the motors of the expansions of humans, archaics, and animals alike. Each gyre displaces more water than all the rivers of the world combined. This gyre, the South Pacific Gyre and the North Pacific Gyre, are gyres used by humans and archaics alike for over 1 million years. So, ancestral markers tell us that humans and archaics originate in South America. In fact, some tell us that humans originated in the Amazon forest. These are related, make frontier with Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. So with this part of the coast. Chile is heavily involved as well. In these parts, we have the oldest mummies, and we have the oldest ziggurats, which are in fact step pyramids. And at least some ziggurats are related to the Caral culture, and when the Caral culture came to an end is when Egypt and Mesopotamia started out, the cultures we know best. Okay, anyhow, there's indications that there were cultural things going on very early on. So, but as you see, they are related to this current. And this current easily turns over in this current. And in these two currents, some of the oldest archaics and or humans were detected. This is Sulawesi. It's the island with the tail. In this island, which this current brings everything that floats to. And in fact, this island and only this island are the two major islands that during the ice ages still are islands, like Southeast Asia, Eurasia, and Africa form one block. So when it comes to the part of the world that is not the Americas, this and this were the only significant island. In fact, there was Flores as well, but it's already a smaller island. I cannot even point it out here. So in Sulawesi, we have several archaeological evidences, sites, and evidence of 1.5 million years old human influenced presence, 1.5 million years ago. Then in the same current, this is the Yangtze River, and more or less here, it's called Central China. The Yangtze River to its north has a site, archaeological site, that presents also by modern humans influenced fossils. In fact, it's a recent fuss that claims to rewrite human history, that claims out of Asia. We should not forget that this is today is not Asia. Today it's Indonesia, and it always was an independent island, even in interglacials, like what we are in now, right now, and even in glacials. And it has 1.5 million year presence. And obviously, it comes before the pressure of this current and gyre is larger on Sulawesi than it's on the Yangtze River and on this site. If the 1 million years old fossils in China, in central China, on just north of the Yangtze River, that is obviously exposed to the North Pacific Ocean and to this gyre, and consequently to both of these gyres. If this one rewrites human history, then Sulawesi certainly rewrites because it's half a million years earlier. And it's an island, so you cannot go there. While theoretically you could walk to China from Africa or wherever on this combo continent, you certainly could not walk to Sulawesi. And it has very strong currents that will drive you in the Indian Ocean and in the colder parts of it. So you would die. If you were not an advanced navigator, and if you would come from somewhere from this combined continent, you would not be able to cross to Sulawesi. You would end up in the Indian Ocean and die. From South America, you could do it even by floating without being carried out of it. Without being carried out of the tropics. It's what, in fact, what Thor Heyerdahl did and proved based on a myth, and certainly many other informations he got. That was a plan from before the World War, and he executed that plan shortly after World War II. So he rafted without any rowing, without any sailing, and without rudder. He got into Polynesia. And Polynesia is at least here. It was 100 days of rafting. It went as planned, because as you see, this is a straightforward current. And then he could land on one of the islands he planned to land in Polynesia. So anyhow, the same current leads to Sulawesi, while the main flow is in this direction, at least so today. During the Ice Age, there could have been a few differences. Part of it is pushed here through this, let's call it straits, narrow straits. So another feature is Java, that presented 30 Homo erectus, which is claimed to be as old as 2 million years. It's here. So we have Sulawesi, 1.5 million years. We have Homo erectus in one spot, 30 fossils. We have China fossil of 1 million years. And we can go on. So it's a concentration of fossils. Each gyre, and we have 4 main gyres, displaces more water than all of the rivers of the world combined. And I will start out demonstrating the earliest gyre expansion by demonstrating the expansion of the earliest human transposon of millions of years old. The transposon is PV92. So this transposon, it's also called a jumping gene, PV92 is the earliest human transposon. It's enigmatic because it ended up spreading over all of the world, but departing from the Amazon forest, which is an indication that our origin lies in the Amazon forest. It's not anywhere in the Amazon forest, it is where it touches Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. That's the main places. And what we claim is that it is taken with the current and it's led to Polynesia, to Australia, and Indonesia, and as far as the Andaman Islands. And you see, they are in the extension we discussed, where it's pinched through, where the South Pacific Ocean makes such pressure that it pinches through these streets, one or two, a few straits, and it ends up in Andaman Island. That is where it is studied and confirmed. But anyhow, it's present in all of the world in smaller frequencies. So it ended up spreading to as far as Andaman Islands, let's say as far as India. And we know that India and China and Mesopotamia, Egypt are amongst all the oldest cultures. And you see they are all in reach of these currents. And they can come back, for instance, this way, which is a kind of a highway, because this is one of the fastest currents. It's quite dangerous. It's much rougher than this one, but it's also faster. In the next video, I will demonstrate that humans and archaics, like Neanderthals, lived in the same areas as early modern humans did, but were strictly separated from each other. We have evidence that the early modern humans were the ones in control and deployed the archaics and took them on their ships and fleets along the Gyres on their continental and intercontinental voyages, clearly and efficiently following the very strong gyres and currents that travel in close cycles. In the next video, we will show that archaics, including Neanderthals, lived in the same areas as and very associated with early modern humans, as said, strictly separated from each other, as is supposed to be the case in a culture or civilization with strict classes or castes. Since archaics are millions of years old, this has been taking place for millions of years. In a clear way, this is a first indication of global or near global, also intercontinental, advanced civilizations and economies millions of years ago.